This is the IELTS listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to part 1. Part 1. You will hear a woman telephoning an eco-farm. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5. Good afternoon. Lakeside Eco Farm. Mark speaking.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Helen. I was listening to a programme the other day and it said that you are a member of the Northern Hotel Group.
Yes, that's correct. Are you a member of the group?
Yes, I am, and I would like to find out about staying with you for a week during the school holidays.
No problem, Helen. May I have your full name?
Helen Pennington. That's Pennington.
Thank you, Helen. And your email address?
helen123@email.com. No dashes or underscores. Oh, sorry, actually it's probably better if I give you my work email address, which is more convenient for me. That is helen123@greenfield.com, and Greenfield is one word.
OK, and your home address?
It is 66 Lake Road, Sheffield.
May I ask where you heard about us? You mentioned a programme. Is it on TV or...?
Actually, I heard about you on the radio, and I thought it might be a good place to take my children during the summer holidays. What kind of activities do you have?
Well, here we have lodges in the woods, a couple of lakes, lots of activities and great food, so I'm sure your whole family will love it. I can give you prices for all these, but first, could I have your membership number?
Oh yes, I think it's UK 765042GE, but I will just check. It has been a while since I used it. Just a moment. Actually it is UK 765024EG.
That's fine, thank you. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Can you see my information on your system?
Yes, I've found you. So, regarding accommodation here at Island Eco Farm, for families I recommend our family chalets, as they are large and suitable for both adults and children.
OK, that sounds nice. But a lodge is probably too big for us, and I don't think we have much time and energy for cleaning, so we would like to stay in a flat, preferably near the farm.
I'm afraid there's no accommodation near the farm. Would you want to be located near the lake? It's got a great view.
Actually, my daughter would prefer to stay in the forest if possible.
That's fine. We have some lovely log cabins with room for 4 people, which would suit your family.
Yes, that's the kind of thing we want. I hope you have a wide range of food available. My husband is a meat eater. I like seafood, and my children like organic food, including plenty of vegetables.
Yes, we cater for all different types of diet, so you can get all of those preferences here, don't worry.
Great. So, what is the transport situation? Can we get there by ferry or van, for instance?
No, the best way is by train. There's a regular service from Sheffield, or there is a bike trail all the way here. It generally takes about 6 hours to ride here from Sheffield.
That sounds good, but it might be difficult with our luggage. It's a pity you don't have vans or ferry boats, but I think we will take the train. So, what activities do you have there?
We have a gardening course on planting flowers. Would that be suitable?
I was hoping for something a little more energetic to give us more exercise. A dance course, for example.
That is something guests requested in the past, but it's not something we are doing at the moment. I will bear that in mind for the future, though.
OK, that would be great. I need to get back to work, so can you email me through the prices and all the details?
Certainly. I'll send all the details through to your work email address right now.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome, and we hope to see you here at Lakeside Eco Farm soon.
Thanks, goodbye.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1.
You will hear a man sharing his experiences with the oceanic island travelling. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 17. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 17.
Hello, my name is Damon, and I would like to share my experiences of oceanic island travelling. First of all, some of you have been asking me how Oceanic Island Travelling keeps its tour group members updated while they're on the travel trip. Please note that the information board is updated daily, and we encourage you to check it every morning before you begin your day on the beach, in the cottage, or participating in any of the many activities offered. So please remember to check it at the reception area in the front of the visitor centre of the resort. You are probably aware of the many different activities offered on our trips. There is something you should know before booking. Reservations are not necessary for most activities, such as sand soccer, beach volleyball, and even scuba diving. However, if you are planning to participate in our water skiing activity, we encourage you to book that activity at least 48 hours beforehand, as we hire an outside group to conduct this activity and we need to notify them of how many participants will be involved. One of the many activities available to the guests is the Mystery Cave Tour. Some people interested in participating in those tours don't know what the ticket price includes. The ticket price includes transportation to the caves. All participants are required to wear a safety helmet inside the caves, and the ticket has covered that for you. If you are joining this tour, you will need to wear some comfortable shoes, as there will be some walking involved with this tour. If you are interested to see a map of the Mystery Cave in advance of your trip, you can see it on the Oceanic Island Travelling website. Of course, we will offer you a map of the cave if you need it during the tour, but it will cost an extra fee. For those of you interested in visiting the Davison Wildlife Park, you should know that the park is an excellent site for families, though it does attract a lot of zoologists to do some research. Again, transportation to the park is included in your ticket price. And please note that children aged 12 and under receive a discounted ticket price. In the wildlife park, children can often watch elephant shows, which are really an attraction, but now some elephants are ill and they need some time to recover. Still, there is another activity that should entertain kids. They are allowed to feed the animals. This activity is extremely popular with kids. Among the most popular animals at the zoo are the collection of red kangaroos. The size of these kangaroos is similar to that of black bears, but generally they are bigger than adults, and if you're lucky, you might even be able to see some baby kangaroos while you are visiting. The crocodiles are also very popular at the wildlife park. These prehistoric animals have a lifespan of over 50 years. A male crocodile can even be expected to live to the age of 80. You won't get as close to the crocodiles as you will to some of the other animals in the park, as they are somewhat dangerous. You will be able to view these animals from a distance in their natural habitats.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 18 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 18 to 20.
For those of you that have previously participated in this tour, please know that some of the activities which were previously available are no longer available and have been replaced with new activities. The barbecue and the bonfire are now restricted by ordinance due to fire precautions in the area. Instead of going hiking on the hills, most of our tourists prefer to visit many of the gift shops in the area to buy souvenirs for themselves or for family and friends who are not on the tour. The emu farm, which has previously been a popular place to visit, is now temporarily closed for business. But newly available to you is a popular trip offered to the Nelson Cheese Factory, in which visitors can take a tour and learn all about the process of manufacturing cheese. And finally, a visit to the St. John's Fruit Farm is another very popular day trip. The fruit farm is within walking distance of our cottages, and you can get there by minibus this time, but we'll have a few nature trails that go past the cottages in the future. At the farm, you will be able to pick strawberries and apples in the farm's orchards and fields. Many tourists enjoy this activity a lot. We don't have hill hiking in the area, but we do have tours that involve in other destinations. Contact me if you are interested.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Section 3. You will hear an art history student called Jack talking to a lecturer, Dr. Rubin, about an English artist called Samuel Prout. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25 on page 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Dr. Rubin?
Hello, Jack. So have you chosen which artist you're going to give your presentation on?
Yes, Samuel Prout, the 19th century English watercolour painter.
Right, interesting choice. I always feel he never quite got the fame he deserved, did he?
No, I think that's true. I mean, I don't think he ever went completely out of vogue, even though tastes and fashions come and go. He was really prolific in his day, but there's never really been a high-profile showing of his paintings. That could have brought him to more people's attention.
Sure. But I think it's remarkable that he achieved any critical success given the problems that he had. Apparently he was prone to chronic chest infections throughout his life.
Yes, it must have been hard for him, but it seems he had a loving wife and family.
And a strong network of colleagues and supporters.
Yeah, I've been trying to find out what got him interested in painting in the first place. He doesn't seem to have learned the skill from his father, like so many artists of his time.
No, well, I think he painstakingly reproduced other painters' works, essentially sort of schooling himself. And then later on, he actually became an art teacher. How do you feel about Prout's style of painting?
It's interesting how a lot of artists, you can see how their style is developing as their work matures, but not so much with Prout. He seemed to have several on the go all at the same time.
Yes, with others you can say, oh, that must be by so-and-so and painted in around 1820, say.
Right, but not so much with Prout.
Of course, Prout's career had a huge boost when the art critic John Ruskin declared him a great artist.
Yes, but Ruskin's assessment was quite biased, wasn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, Ruskin admired Prout, and he didn't seem to mind the fact that many of his paintings showed more or less the same thing, European street scenes, or that the people in Prout's pictures can look rather wooden and not very lifelike.
For me, his detailing of architecture was too predictable. But for Ruskin, that was where Prout's genius lay.
Well, I guess that's what Ruskin was particularly interested in.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30 on page 6. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
OK, Jack, so your brief was to prepare a presentation to give to the group and show some pictures associated with the artist, each of which makes a key point about their work, OK?
Right. Well, I wanted to start with A View in Germany at Würzburg. It's a detailed watercolour showing a busy market scene with a background of flamboyant detail like in so many of his pictures.
Yes, basically what Prout had made his name doing so well. It really gives the flavour of his work.
Right.
OK.
There's a painting called Bridge on the Ouse near York, except that experts now think this isn't York at all, but somewhere in the south of England.
Right.
But as far as I know, the picture has never been renamed.
No, that would make cataloguing and researching Prout's pictures more complicated.
And the next one is called Woodland Scene. This one has a signature. It says S. Prout in the bottom left. But even so, experts on Prout say they doubt he actually painted it.
Yes, I remember reading that. The detailing is too clumsy, with the sun not casting shade in the right place.
Exactly. And there's a lot of blue that basically doesn't appear in any other Prout pictures. So it's probably a forgery?
Yes. And what's the next one?
Venice. It's a view from the Grand Canal with some rather grand buildings. They're bathed in sunlight with a sort of picturesque shadow cast by the buildings opposite, which is shown brilliantly.
Lovely use of colour. Prout at his best, I think.
Right. And then there's Entrance to a Harbour.
Right, he grew up by the sea, didn't he?
Yes, in Plymouth. He didn't specialise in seascapes, but this same location with the harbour and the sea also appear in other pictures, showing a range of weather conditions. They don't all have figures like this one, but I think they're really well done.
Right. Well, now you've obviously thought...
That is the end of Section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 4 on page 7.
Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear an introduction about concept and some background of artificial gills and the technological application from a presenter. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. In my talk today, I'll be exploring the idea of artificial gills. I'll start by introducing the concept, giving some background and so forth, and then I'll go on to explain the technological applications, including a short, very simple experiment I conducted. Starting with the background, as everyone knows, all living creatures need oxygen to live. Mammals take in oxygen from the atmosphere by using their lungs, and fishes take oxygen from water by means of their gills, which of course in most fishes are located either side of their head. But human beings have always dreamt of being able to swim underwater like the fishes, breathing without the help of oxygen tanks. I don't know whether any of you have done any scuba diving, but it's a real pain having to use all that equipment. You need special training, and it's generally agreed that the tanks are too heavy and big to enable most people to move and work comfortably underwater. So scientists are trying a different tack. Rather than humans carrying an oxygen supply as they go underwater, wouldn't it be possible to extract oxygen in situ, that is, directly from the water while swimming? In the 1960s, the famous underwater explorer Jacques Cousteau, for example, predicted that one day surgery could be used to equip humans with gills. He believed our lungs could be bypassed, and we would learn to live underwater just as naturally as we live on land. But of course, most of us would prefer not to go to such extremes. I've been looking at some fairly simple technologies developed to extract oxygen from water. Ways to produce a simple, practical artificial gill, enabling humans to live and breathe in water without harm. Now, how scientists and inventors went about this was to look at the way different animals handled this. Fairly obviously, they looked at the way fishes breathe, but also how they move down and float up to the surface using inflatable sacs called swim bladders. Scientists also looked at animals without gills, which use bubbles of air underwater, notably beetles. These insects contrive to stay underwater for long periods by breathing from this bubble which they hold under their wing cases. By looking at these animal adaptations, inventors began to come up with their own artificial gills. Now, making a crude gill is actually rather easy, more straightforward than you would think. You take a watertight box, which is made of a material which is permeable to gas, that is, it allows it to pass through, inwards and outwards. You then fill this with air, fix it to the diver's face, and go down underwater. But a crucial factor is that the diver has to keep the water moving, so that water high in oxygen is always in contact with the gill, so he can't really stay still. And to maximize this contact, it's necessary for your gill to have a big surface area. Different gill designers have addressed this problem in different ways, but many choose to use a network or lattice arrangement of tiny tubes as part of their artificial gills. Then the diver is able to breathe in and out. Oxygen from the water passes through the outer walls of the gill, and carbon dioxide is expelled. In a nutshell, that's how the artificial gill works. So, having read about these simple gill mechanisms, I decided to create my own. I followed the procedure I've just described, and it worked pretty well when I tried it out in the swimming pool. I lasted underwater for nearly 40 minutes. However, I've read about other people breathing through their gill for several hours. So the basic idea works well. But the real limitation is that these simple gills don't work as the diver descends to any great depth, because the pressure builds, and a whole different set of problems are caused by that. Research is being done into how these problems might be overcome, but that's another story which has to be the subject of another talk. Despite this serious limitation, many people have high hopes for the artificial gill, and they think it might have applications beyond simply enabling an individual to stay underwater for a length of time. For example, the same technology might be used to provide oxygen for submarines, enabling them to stay submerged for months on end without resorting to potentially dangerous technologies such as nuclear power. Another idea is to use oxygen derived from the water as energy for fuel cells. These could power machinery underwater, such as robotic devices. So, in my view, this is an area of technology with great potential. Now, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of listening test 3. In the IELTS test, you will now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.